In 1973, 120 members of one family gathered for a reunion at a university in Tennessee. The university was named after their great-great-grandfather. He had built it with a gift out of what was, at the time, the largest private fortune in the United States. According to the family historian who was there was not a single millionaire in the room. 96 years earlier, the man who built that fortune had died owning more money than the United States Treasury held. So what happened? The answer is not that they were stupid, and it is not that they gambled it away, although some of them did try. The answer is one idea, and once you have it, you will see it in every family fortune you ever hear about. He did not leave them money. He left them a machine that made money, and those are not the same thing at all. Take a machine apart, and every piece is still valuable. You can sell a cog. You can hang it on a wall. It just does not make anything anymore. Cornelius Vanderbilt was born in 1794 on Staten Island to a family with no money and no education. He left school at 11 and was, by every account, barely literate for the rest of his life. At 16, according to the story his family told, he borrowed $100 from his mother and bought a small sailing boat. He ran passengers across the harbor to Manhattan. He undercut everybody. He worked in weather that kept other boatmen tied up at the dock. That became steamboats. Steamboats became a shipping empire. And then, at around 70 years old, he sold almost all of it and moved into railroads, an industry he had never worked in. At 70, he bought a small line running up the middle of Manhattan, then another. Then he set his sights on the big one, which connected New York to the Great Lakes and did not want to sell. So he waited for winter. When the river froze, that railway could not move its freight south by water. It had to hand it to Vanderbilt's line at Albany. One winter, he simply stopped accepting it. Their traffic collapsed within days. Their share price fell. He bought them. When he died in 1877, his estate was over $100 million. To give that a shape, it has been calculated as roughly 1 out of every $87 in the entire American economy. Now, the idea, the whole story turns on, and it takes 90 seconds. A business is a machine. It has parts that need each other. A railway network is worth far more than the sum of its individual lines, because the value is in the fact that they connect. Take a network of 10 lines and give one line to each of 10 people, and you have not created 10 small railways. You have created 10 people who each own a road to nowhere, and a machine requires somebody competent to run it. If the next generation cannot run it, the machine tells you immediately because it stops working. A pile of money does not do that. A pile of money asks nothing of you. It does not require skill, or attention, or a decision. It sits there producing an income while you go to parties, which means a machine is protected by the fact that it is difficult, and a pile is protected by nothing at all. Cornelius Vanderbilt understood this in his bones, and the proof is the most brutal document in American inheritance history. He had 13 children who lived to adulthood, 9 daughters and 4 sons. He left almost everything to one of them. Of an estate above $100 million, roughly 95 million went to his eldest surviving son. The 9 daughters received a few $100,000 each. Another son, whom his father considered a gambler and a disappointment, was left the income from a small trust and forbidden from touching the principal. That looks like cruelty, and in human terms it was. His family said so in open court, loudly, for more than a year, while newspapers printed every detail. But it was not thoughtless. It was the single most important financial decision in this family's history, and he knew exactly what he was doing. He was refusing to take the machine apart. He had spent 60 years learning that scale is the value. split 100 million 13 ways, and you do not create 13 fortunes. You create 13 minority shareholders who will be argued into selling within a decade. So he kept it in one pair of hands and accepted that his family would hate him for it. They did. And 5 years after his father's death, the disinherited son died by suicide in a New York hotel room. That was the price. He paid it knowingly. Hold that thought, because his son is about to refuse to pay it. William Henry Vanderbilt was 55 when he inherited, and his father had spent decades telling him he was not up to it. He then took $95 million and, in 8 years, turned it into roughly $200 million. Sit with that, because every version of this story gets it backwards. The father is remembered as the genius. The son took 60 years of work and doubled it in 8. He was, when he died, the richest man in the world. But he did something else, quietly, that mattered more than the doubling. He sold down a large part of the railway holdings at a good price and moved the money into a spread of investments. That is a completely sensible thing to do. It reduces risk. Any advisor today would tell you to do it. It is also the moment the machine started becoming a pile. An operating business demands competence from whoever inherits it. A portfolio demands only restraint, and restraint is the one thing this family was about to run entirely out of. William Henry had 8 children. He divided it among all of them. He was not careless. The 2 eldest sons got the largest shares and control of the railways. The other 6 received enormous sums each. By any human standard, this was decent. Nobody was cut out. Nobody had to sit in a courtroom testifying against a brother. It was also the decision that ended the fortune. Because his father had understood the thing he either did not understand or could not bring himself to act on. The power of that money was never its size. It was that it was in one piece. $100 million in one pair of hands reshapes an industry. 10 million in 8 pairs of hands is 8 very rich families who own investments and build houses. And unlike his father, he attached no conditions. No trusts locking the capital away from the next generation. No structure requiring it to stay in the business. No rules of any kind. Look at what an old European family would have done with the same problem. Entailed estates that could not legally be sold or divided. Instruments refined over 4 centuries, whose entire purpose was to stop this exact thing happening. The Vanderbilts had none of it. They were 3 generations off a ferry dock. There had not been time to learn. So let me put the question to you here, because I do not think the answer is obvious. The father kept it whole and let 12 of his children hate him. The son divided it fairly and kept his family together. Which one would you have done? Tell me in the comments. And be honest, because almost everybody says the father until it is their own children. The 3rd generation built the greatest collection of private palaces ever raised in the United States. One of them built a house in Manhattan with 137 rooms. It is still the largest private residence ever built in New York City. The same man then built a summer place in Newport, Rhode Island. 70 rooms, used for a few weeks a year. His brother's wife built another one nearby that reportedly cost $11 million, of which around $7 million was the marble. And the youngest grandson built a house in North Carolina with 250 rooms on about 8,000 acres. It is still the largest private house in America, and nothing has come close since. Now think about what those buildings actually are, financially. Every one of them needed permanent staff, permanent heating, permanent repair, and groundskeeping across enormous acreage. Every component was custom-made, which means every repair was custom-made, and not one of them generated a single dollar of income. The North Carolina estate consumed so much that within 20 years, the family was selling off land just to keep it running. Thousands of acres eventually went to the federal government. So the pattern is complete. The first generation built a machine. The second converted it into a pile. The third traded the pile for things that consumed money and produced none. By 1926 and 27, the great Fifth Avenue houses were coming down. The land underneath was worth more than the buildings, and nobody left in the family could afford to run them. The Newport house was eventually sold for $365,000, a 70-room palace on the Atlantic. Now, the other side. Right, I have described a family taking a machine apart. Let me make the other case properly, because it is stronger than the story usually allows. 1. The railways were dying anyway, and not because of them. American railroading declined through the 20th century because freight moved to lorries and passengers moved to cars and aeroplanes. That killed railway companies, with no Vanderbilt anywhere near them. The company they built eventually merged with a rival and went bankrupt. And that rival had been run by entirely different people for a century. Whatever killed American rail was much bigger than one family. 2. The houses were not simply vanity. In 1890, social position carried real economic weight. It determined who did business with you and which rooms you were admitted to. One famous costume ball, and the house built to hold it, forced the old New York families to finally acknowledge the Vanderbilts. On its own terms, that investment worked. 3. They were not incapable people. One grandson was a serious scholar and an early patron of scientific forestry in America. A granddaughter founded a major museum of American art that is still one of the most important in the country. 4. And the best evidence of all, in the 4th generation, a Vanderbilt girl was the subject of the most vicious custody trial of the 1930s, fought over her in open court in front of reporters. Her father had drunk and gambled through his share and died when she was a baby. In her 50s, she put her name on a line of designer jeans and built a genuine fortune of her own. Not railway money, not inherited, earned by a woman whose great-great-grandfather had run a ferry. Her son is a well-known journalist, and he has said publicly that he was raised expecting nothing and received nothing of consequence. 6 generations from the largest fortune in America, and the family was back to earning it. What it actually tells you. 3 things, and every one of them applies to sums far smaller than this. 1. A machine and a pile look identical on paper and behave nothing alike. Look at any inheritance and ask which one it is. A business demands somebody competent, and it fails loudly and early if they are not there. A pile demands only that nobody spends it, and it fails silently over decades. 2. Dividing something fairly and dividing it wisely are different questions. William Henry was the better man. He was also the one who ended it. Every parent faces a small version of this, and almost nobody is willing to be the villain, which is exactly why the Commodore's solution has never been popular. 3. Every fortune that lasted was protected by rules somebody wrote down. The families that survived 4 centuries did not have better children. They had entails, trusts, and legal instruments whose only job was to protect the money from the family itself. The Vanderbilts could buy anything on earth except the one thing that would have kept it. Grand Central Terminal is still standing in New York, where the Commodore built his depot. There is a statue of him on the front of it, facing down Park Avenue. About 750,000 people pass through that building every day. Almost none of them look up. And in 1973, 120 of his descendants sat in a hall in Tennessee, cousins who had never met, sharing a surname, a university, and a great-great-grandfather who once held one out of every $87 in America and nothing else at all. Outro next. The bankers who financed kings for 200 years bought the papacy twice and left behind a city that people still queue to look at. Subscribe. I will keep drawing them small.